he'll always wait until I find the answer, or if I'm not finding the answer to something, then that's when he'll step in with a bit of prompting.
Uh-huh.
I
Yeah.
mean, look, there are definitely times when he'll say, do this, do that, or check this out, or this is what this is all about, and all that sort of stuff, because that's important. But the thing I've realized about spirit is that they will never tell us what to do. They will give us a vibration, give us an energy. And even Tabaash says, God will never give you an answer. God will give you the power to be able to find the answer within yourself because you are God.
Yeah.
And so, it's always about ourselves. I've realized this more and more this year. It is absolutely true. It is all about who you are and what you think and what you feel and what you do. It isn't out there, it's here. And out there is just the power, but in here is the power. So it's just always the power. We're just positioning ourselves in different places, basically. But yeah, so I would say I've evolved equally, with Tabaash. So.
Welcome to Souls on Tap. I'm Julianne Vaughn.
And I'm Jennifer Cross.
Today, we would like to welcome Blair Styra, a spiritual channel, an author, and public speaker with over 3 decades of experience guiding individuals toward personal transformation and spiritual awakening. Through his work as the conduit for Tabaash, a wise and personable non-physical entity who lived in 5000 BC Sumeria, Blair has helped people worldwide reconnect with their authentic selves, find clarity in their life journeys, and embrace their innate power as creators of their realities. What an honor to have you on our show, Blair.
Oh, look, thank you so much. I love doing stuff like this. It's so comforting, actually, connecting up with like-minded individuals, but also, being able to support other people who listen to things like this because, there's so much that's out there. And I know people are forever finding, information, content, and, and doing stuff like this. I think it's really just being yourself and just chatting, it's just like having chats, basically.
Exactly.
And that's exactly what we wanted to do. Obviously, we have enough respect for the audience. We wanted this to be somewhat
Yes,
professional.
yes, yes, of
But
course.
really, I wanted it also to be as if we have come into their living room to sit and talk.
Yes, yeah, yeah,
Because I want
totally.
everybody to be relaxed. And slowly but surely, our subscribers are growing. And it's fun to see. Very fun to
Yeah.
see. To start off, Blair, I'd love it if you could answer the question, what was the earliest moment that you realized that your life had spiritual dimension or that you were actually sensing something beyond the physical world?
I would probably say 6 years old.
Wow.
And I was born in Canada. And where we lived, we were up in a sort of a mountainous area. So there's a lot of forests. And I was at that age, even then, I was quite solitary. And, I preferred my own company and just the sense of that, the peace of that, etc. And I used to wander around the forests and also the cemetery up the road. I used to hang out there quite a bit. And I would just feel energy. I didn't understand, what was going on. But sometimes when I go through the forests, I would find special places which I now know I'd have probably stepped into some other dimension. And this place was always a place of great stillness and great beauty. And I would be just sitting there and feeling something that went beyond what the human experience was. And this often happened, and it got to the point where I put a word to it. I used to call it the something more. And when we were going like family drives and things like that, and if I ever saw a place that reminded me of that, I'd always go, something more. My parents would
Aw.
be looking at me like, what? What are you talking about?
Oh.
And then with the cemetery stuff, I would sort of wander around all the graves, and I was just particularly drawn to some specific energies. and I could somehow feel. I didn't call it spirit because I didn't know what it was, but it was just, there's a sense of quietness and stillness. But there was this little grassy knoll that had three pine trees on it. And whenever I would sit there, it would trigger off a memory in me of heaven.
Mm.
And I would sit up there and cry because I was remembering heaven and just the feeling of it and the power of it and the connection. And look, even now, if I see an area that looks like that, it reminds me of heaven. I won't burst into tears now, but it's just that sense of like a memory within me that automatically links me in, to those types of vibrations.
So
So
when you were seeing that and you got quite emotional, you were about 7, 8, something like
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah,
And
six, seven. Yeah.
so that feeling, what was partially included in that was a longing to go back.
I wouldn't say to go back. It wasn't, that's not the sense I had. It was more like a yearning and a memory of our origins.
Yeah.
And it really touched the depth of my soul and it connected me up with who I am in reality. Nothing to do with my physical reality, my intellectual reality, but
Hmm.
just my light being state.
Hmm.
Did
Yeah.
you understand what it was? Or
No, I
did you
didn't.
think that you were
No,
just
no.
daydreaming or?
No, well, I didn't think I was daydreaming because it always felt real.
Mm.
And so I never questioned it. It was, when you experience things which you do from a very high level of certainty.
Hmm.
And that's the sense I had. I mean, now as an adult, I can look back and I realize I was recognizing a truth
Yeah.
that had nothing to do with human nature. It was all to do with my light body nature.
Hmm.
And it was very also a feeling of very matter of fact that, oh yeah, this is how it is. This is a vibration. This is a truth.
Mm.
And when I look back in retrospect now, I realize that knowing that probably started to isolate me a lot more, from people, from the world, and not because it was necessarily a negative way, but just I would observe my outside influences.
Yeah.
And even as a child, I remember thinking, well, why are people doing that? Why are they thinking that? And why do they have to go through that? When we have this something more available to us all the time. So,
Yeah. Wow. That's very beyond your years advanced kind of thinking.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Were your
Well,
parents? I have to ask, were your parents aware that they had something really special going on with
oh
you?
no, no, not at all.
Not at all.
It was just a family, because four kids and adults and it was in the 60s, when we lived in Canada, and then we immigrated to New Zealand in 1971 when I was 10, and which of course changed the whole gear of everything basically. And even though I remembered that I had this feeling of the something more, it changed because you get into growing up and other
Hmm.
types of experiences. But
Sure.
being transported from Canada to New Zealand was an extraordinary experience because New Zealand in 1971 was paradise,
Mm.
absolutely paradise.
Hmm.
And there was a naivety here, but in a really productive way.
Hmm.
And the population in New Zealand was not much, but it was just the beaches and the lifestyle and the a lot of respect. People really respected each other. There was no violence at all. I think, you'd have something like one murder every 2 years or something like that in this country.
Wow.
And yeah, the police never carried guns or anything of that nature. So,
Wow.
it's a very, very different vibration. And it reminds me of, you probably have programs like this in the US, and it was a program called Crime Watch. And it was the Crime Watch version in New Zealand. And this was probably in the late 70s, early 80s. Anyway, so the police came on the screen and they're talking about, but the crime was that a couple's wedding photos had been taken from their car.
Oh, Okay.
That's
And
great.
and after that program was aired, it went viral all around the world. And the tourists and immigration department in New Zealand had all these inquiries about how to get to New Zealand because if that's the extent of your crime, you know, we
Right.
have caught up a bit since then, but it's definitely not like it is in other places for sure.
Mm.
Yeah. So.
Wow. And you weren't channeling at this time. You were just aware of.
Yeah, I had an awareness, and I was living my life, becoming a young teenager, doing
Mhm.
all the things that you do, and girlfriends, and learning how to smoke, and all the stuff, experiences,
Yeah.
in high school and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, it wasn't until I was in my 20s that I started to really look at the options and the possibilities of this, and
Mm.
it was a trigger because my wife, she had been diagnosed with breast cancer, and at the time it wasn't a very good prognosis, so we started looking at you know life after death and all that sort of stuff, and that triggered off in me once again there's something more. And then the moment that happened, there was this enormous synchronicity of things that started to occur. Books started coming my way. People would say things to me in the street, strangers. And I was managing a clothing store at this time. And this woman walks by the store, and then she came into the shop and she looked at me and she gave me this spiritual reading. She said, "Oh, you have all these things around you, and you're going to be doing this and that." And I'm sort of looking at her like, whatever. You know, and
Like,
and so off she went, and then just more and more of that stuff started to happen. And then Kay and I would really investigate. We did lots of meditation evenings, and we went to everything. We went to Hare Krishna meetings. We went to Buddhist meetings. It was that real activating, the soul. And we found something in everything we went to. And without any sense of where is this leading to or what's the conclusion of it, it was just that it was that awakening, that understanding of awareness was being presented to us. She survived, the cancer, but as we just kicked into life again,
Mhm.
then I was just reading spiritual books, doing heaps of meditation. Again, never thinking for a moment that I was going to be a channel. I don't think I even knew what a channel was at that point. And
Mm.
then one
Fascinating.
day I was at work and I had this distinct feeling that spirit was around me, and this distinct feeling that they were trying to get my attention in some particular way.
Wow.
And the feeling just never went away. And so came home, Kay was cooking dinner. I flicked the TV on as you do. You get home, and I remember thinking, oh, I wonder what this feeling's like. And when I turned the TV on, up comes this program on channeling.
Wow.
And I'm like, oh, so I didn't, register that there was a connection here at that stage. So I sat there and watched it. But then that's when I suddenly thought, what I'm watching has something to do with the feeling that I have. So finished the program, and Kay had sort of been wandering in, having a look. And I said, oh, this is really interesting. So we thought afterwards, well, let's try something. And we didn't really know what to do. So we sat at a dining room table, and we did the typical turn the lights on, have some candles, that sort of stuff, hold hands, and and we were so both giggling, because we weren't, being that serious about it. Then my body just suddenly went really rigid, and I had this overwhelming sense of sadness come through me, which
Mm.
then disappeared. And then within my thoughts, I could hear my father-in-law, who'd passed away a year before, giving me information. And then I was just telling Kay what I was getting. And it was all very relevant, and he talked about stuff of her childhood and things like that that I didn't know anything about. Anyway, so we did this, I think, for about an hour. And then afterwards, when you get a feeling where your life is suddenly changed irrevocably,
Yes.
suddenly
Absolutely.
it's like things are no longer the same. And I just felt different. And I
Mhm.
had this through my whole body, this vibration going through me. I just felt this frequency just moving through me, and I couldn't settle, so I was sort of wandering around and sometimes I get that, after channeling Tabaash, you're just full of energy,
Mhm.
you know, and so, we didn't really know what we were doing, but we just said, well, let's keep practicing this. So, we would do that every couple of days until invariably we used to do it every night. And so with my meditations and my reading and all the stuff that I was involved in, it started to develop into gentle forms of channeling. And so I would just be sitting, in the chair in the living room, and my body would shake a lot. And what was happening there, which I've been told afterwards, is that it was downloads.
Wow.
So I was being downloaded with energy because my physiological state had to be readjusted to meet up with these higher frequencies.
Mhm.
And I'm sometimes actually quite uncomfortable. And
Mm.
then it would settle down after a while. And then they started doing weird things with my throat. So you just it was like I was toning and
Huh.
making sounds, you see.
Hmm.
And again, that stopped after a while. And then I started getting senses of energies and entities, etc. And then this entity came through, and he just started. I mean, it was like my voice, but it wasn't. And so it was this guy called Paul, and he'd been a
No relationship to the disciple, huh?
no,
No.
no, he'd been a French Secret Service person
Whoa.
who'd been killed.
Wow.
And
Wow.
and so what had happened is that he had. Oh, that's right. Sorry, I've sort of got ahead of it myself. So while I was practicing all this, we started doing some assistance with souls who found themselves suspended. And so I was just doing this in my head, and Kay was talking. And so Paul had been this secret agent, and he'd been killed, but he found himself in a suspended place.
Does that
So I,
mean, I'm sorry, does suspended mean like not gone to heaven, like in
yeah,
a
yeah,
in a
yeah,
In
yeah,
place?
yeah,
limbo,
yeah,
kind of,
yeah.
yeah.
So he was in a limbo sort of vibration. So I
Okay.
think he must have died in quite a traumatic way.
Mm.
And anyway, so for want of a better phrase, I helped him go to the light, and then he came back to me, and then he said, "Well, you helped me, I want to help you." And so I channeled him for quite a while, and he would just come through with just good basic stuff, and it was really about getting my physical, my mental, my emotional states used to working in these frequencies and vibrations. And so but it also gave him a chance to put into practice what he had to offer as well. And then occasionally another energy would pop through, and of course it was just all practice basically, so it wasn't developing big relationships. And this is interesting. You get if you do this long term with some souls, they become your friends,
Mm.
and you get used to being with them. And one day Paul said to me, "Look, I can't come through anymore because I've done what I needed to do for you. And there's another teacher who's presenting themselves. And so I have to make way for their vibration." And I suppose, I think he said, so you've had an upgrade. So therefore you need to come with different frequencies. So, I felt really, really sad.
Yeah.
It's like saying farewell, to a
Right.
good
To a
friend.
friend. Yeah.
Yeah. And then nothing happened for a while. And then I was actually having a meditation. And all of a sudden I got this entity appearing in my mind's eye. And I felt this absolute sense of connection with this person. And then this knowledge, and I was shown this scene, and he had been my father in a previous incarnation in Egypt, thousands and thousands of years back. And his name was Estanya.
Mm.
And the moment he said his name, I just cried. It was a reunion, basically.
Mm.
And then he started to come through me. And his philosophies were different from Paul's because Estania was on a different level of consciousness. And therefore he started to bring forth a lot of philosophies and understandings, mind, body, and spirit. So at this stage, we were inviting certain friends to, come and be a part of this. So Stanya would do little teachings and connect with people and all that sort of stuff. And then and I did channel him for several years actually. And again, never thinking for a moment that I was going to be doing anything like this as a job. So I was just living my life, doing my meditations, bit of channeling here and there, etc., and considering about my career options because I was a bit sick of retail and stuff like that, managing. So I started seriously looking at, maybe studying medicine. And so I was sort of doing a little bit of investigation about that. And then I could feel though something else was brewing, like that there was something big that was building, but I had no idea what it was. I thought perhaps it was just more self-development, etc. So my wife and I went away on holiday. We went to the UK and we went to Egypt. And when we came back to the UK, we found out that my mother-in-law had passed away. And she'd lived here in New Zealand and she'd been very sick with Alzheimer's for about 10 years. And so we had a feeling that we needed to go to some psychic or medium or something like that. So we ended up going to the Spiritualist Church in Belgrave Square in London. And they have all these daily meetings and they have psychics and mediums who speak. So that's what we were drawn to. So that's what we went to. And the guy who was from Norfolk, he was very good. And he came up to Kay straight away and said, I've got your mother here. And he said, and he even said the name city she lived in, which was Auckland, which is where she lived. And he didn't know anything about her. And he said, your mother wants you to know that she can see now and hear now and view very clear. And so, it was a perfect message. And then he came to me and he said, oh, Spirit wants to talk to me about your career choices. So I just thought, okay, this is going to be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So he says, I have to interpret this. I see two rooms. And I see one room which has got a red cross on it. Well, a building with a red cross on it. And I thought, well, that's obviously a hospital. And then I see another room, but it's just a room full of light. And it's just, oozing this light all the time. And he says, I've been told to tell you by Spirit that whatever you choose, you will excel in. But it's just a matter of choice. Well, I had no idea what he was talking about when he was talking about the room full of light. So I thought, okay, decisions are being made. So I came back to New Zealand and of course, synchronicity again, come back, reading the paper. And I saw a little tiny ad in the paper, and it was a woman who channeled the Egyptian goddess Isis. And she was doing a public meeting in Wellington. And I said to Kay, oh, we've got to go to this. I just really want to go to this. Anyway, off we trotted. And there must have been about maybe 80 people in the room. And I'm one of these people who I like to sit in the back or on the edge. So if I need a quick escape, I can, get out.
Yeah.
And so there I was. Isis came through the lady and it was fascinating. Really, you could feel the change, you could see the difference. The information, was extraordinary. And then Isis suddenly stopped and stared into the audience and she pointed and she goes, you are a channel. Well, I didn't think she was talking about me. I thought she was talking about the dude behind me. So I sort of behind him. And then she goes, no, you. And everyone, of course, turns around and look at me and I'm like, shrinking into my seat. So we ended up doing some workshops that they would run. And in these workshops, there were all these like-minded people. And it was like finding your family. And it became a really extraordinary, wonderful time because we all I mean, this is in the 80s. And so it was this big burgeoning time in spirituality that was occurring. And so all these like-minded people, we were just growing together and evolving together and supporting each other. And we all became amazing friends and we go socialize all the time, etc. So it's just something I've never experienced in my life. And then one time Isis Sunny came through and she said to me, there's a spirit around you who wants to channel through you permanently. And she said, his name is Tabaash Salam. That is his name. And at the time, it didn't mean absolutely anything to me, you know. So, but I thought, okay. So I started to do some meditation, and that's when Tabaash started to present his energies through me. And that's when Astanya comes through and said, look, I've got to make way because I've got this bigger energy now. And so Astanya departed. Tabaash's energies started to come in. He first presented himself to me more as a feeling. And then he started to appear in my mind's eye. And then little by little by little, he started to explain to me about things I needed to do and food, dietary needs, exercise routines, whatever. So I just kept with this. And then he started to slowly channel through me. And in those days, it was just eyes closed and the body was completely still. So every night, Tabaash would be talking to Kay and just getting used to my body, to working with his vibrations. And he would be doing teachings, and occasionally certain people would come in and join. And so this went on for some time, like a couple of years before, anything, I went public with anything. But then one day, Tabash started talking about, right, we need to start preparing for more public stuff, and I need you to hire this meeting room and all this sort of stuff. And I'm like, you know, so we started doing that. And then I was having this meditation, and it was a really great space, when you get into those
Mhm.
blissful places.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then Tabaash came in my head and he goes, oh, I want you to open your eyes. And I resisted because I was in such a good place. And then in his strong voice, no, open your eyes, Blair. So I did, and I wasn't even in the room anymore.
Oh,
So
wow.
I had altered my state of consciousness and I was out there, as we'll say. And I remember so clearly, I was sitting on a floor that was black and white marble tiles, and there was a window on that side with these curtains sort of flowing like that. And Tobias standing in front of me, looking down at me, going, what are you sitting on the floor for, Blair? And then he laughs in his laugh. And then he says, up, 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 and come and sit. I want to talk to you about what we can do. So we went out of the room, and then there was this sort of sofas. So we sat down, and he just started to outlay a plan, and that the agreement that had been made, between our souls to be able to do this work. And of course, everything we do is part of our own personal evolution. So, and again, as he was speaking to me, it just made absolute sense to me. Like my soul remembered, yes, I've made this agreement. And so from that time on, then the way he worked through me, started to activate more and develop more, etc. Now, again, in those days, um, I was still eyes closed, etc. And so it was the middle of winter, and we had the fire going, and myself and Kay were sitting there, but Tabash was channeling through me, and he's just chatting away. And by this stage, Kay had got used to the eyes closed. So she would do things like be filing her nails, and, things like that. What Tobias is talking, to her,
And as
doing
well,
everything.
right?
Yeah, yeah, And all of a sudden he was talking, and she's filing away. And suddenly Tobias opened the eyes and looked straight at her. And she
Wow.
said, I just about fell off the chair when he did that because she wasn't expecting that at all.
My
So
gosh.
so from that point on, he started to use all my body and became a lot more animated. And so this kept developing. And then we did our first public meeting. I had no idea how many people would come. And I didn't really do much advertising. I just let it be more word of mouth. 100 people came.
Wow.
Wow.
And I just remember my heart just going "Brrr," like that. And then bringing Tobias through, he gave a really good teaching. And that was really pulling the cork. And then from that point on, we used to run meetings. I used to get invited to do meetings. and we just developed it more, and then I started to do personals, and then it just took me into extraordinary places that I never thought it would. And even in the early days, Tabaash would say, "Oh, we're going to be working offshore and do this and that," and I mean, I just didn't even have any feeling about that at all. But we had a radio program with Tabaash called Talking with Tabaash for a while, for a couple of years. We used to run big public meditation teaching evenings.
Was that international? Was that
This was first here in New Zealand, yeah, and so we did that every month for 12 years. And
Wow.
and
Mm.
so Tabaash would do a teaching, and then he would take the audience through meditation, but he loved using music so he could tell a story. But he would
uh
find the most extraordinary type of music. He hates, he calls it tinkle music. He hates that sort of thing.
tinkle
And
music?
yeah, tinkle music, which is just the sort of new agey tinkly stuff he calls it, you know.
Oh, tinkle.
But
Okay, I
but
get
but
it.
yeah, yeah. But he found, yeah, not that tinkle as you people
Yeah.
say. I just thought about
Yeah.
that.
Another
But
play on words there.
yeah, totally. Yeah. Yeah, music to pee by. Yeah. He he would make me go around town and I would find these extraordinary CDs because it was CDs in those days. And there was one group called ERA, and it was Gothic Gregorian chant, but it was to a
Oh.
rock beat.
Oh
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
yeah, yeah.
And
I've heard that.
yeah, it was extraordinary. And when he used this music, people were sobbing. Some people actually had out of body experiences.
I'm sure. Yeah.
And because the power of the music, but also the way Tabaash is just so powerful with his synchronicity when it comes to, and he'd say a word and then the music would be perfect, of course, you know. And anyway, and I mean, after that meditation, I remember, the audience literally roared, you know, and they just stood up and just roar like that, and the vibration in the theater was extraordinary. You could just feel, and I just remember thinking, this is why I do what I do.
Yeah.
This amazing energy and power, and yeah, quite extraordinary. And and then just lots more of those moments basically. And then I started doing offshore work. So I affiliated with Dolores Cannon, and we became very good friends. And she came to New Zealand. I organized an event that Dolores and Tabaash did together here in Wellington. And then, of course, I was a key speaker at several of her transformation conferences, over the years. And then Dolores and myself, Tabaash, we actually did a bit of touring around different states, with teachings, etc.
Wow.
And yeah, and then other people that you affiliate with and connect with. I did a seminar with Elba Weinman that was in Peru.
Hmm.
So that was 2020 and just before COVID. And I love collaboration. I just think, it's great. So I'm now organizing to collaborate with a woman called Jill Cole, who lives
Yeah,
here in,
that's right.
New
I know
Zealand.
Joe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so Tabash and myself and Jill, we're going to present a 15-day spiritual retreat in Egypt in September,
Wow.
Wow.
and
Wow.
which is, going to be amazing. So, and I actually participated in the one she recently did in September. And, I wasn't even sure why I was supposed to be there, but now I know, and it's just activated and triggered off all these ideas and feelings. And since I got back, it's just been blasted at me. We got to go there. You got to do this and da 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 da.
Wow.
And it's happening very quickly. So I know it's going to be a really powerful event. So I can see myself doing more and more of that sort of thing. As times change and the need is there, so to speak.
So
But
how has your relationship with Tabash evolved over the years?
I would say to begin with, I was in awe of this entity, who is doing what he's doing. And, imagine being connected to somebody who always has your back, and is, it's like your uncle, father, brother, cousin, blah, 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 all rolled together in one, just there for you. Now, and that's, I really do feel this. I feel I stand next to him as an equal. And so it's evolved into that point. And one of Tabaash's teachings, which he, really pushes, is we are all gods. We are God. And I feel now, after 37 years, I feel I'm a god standing next to Tabaash, who's a god.
I think that's one of the many things that I remember from my time with Tabaash is that he often says we are all gods doing it our own way.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Does he answer your questions, or does he mostly give teachings? Or do you speak to him like a friend, like a pal?
Yeah, I do. I mean, but the thing is that obviously, Spirit teaches us to know that, we're the ones who actually have the answers.
Yes.
And so he'll always wait until I find the answer, or if I'm not finding the answer to something, then that's when he'll step in with a bit of prompting.
Yeah.
I mean, look, there are definitely times when he'll say, do this, do that, or check this out, or this is what this is all about, and all that sort of stuff, because that's important. But the thing I've realized about Spirit is that they will never tell us what to do. They will give us a vibration, give us an energy. And even Tabaash says, God will never give you an answer. God will give you the power to be able to find the answer within yourself, because you are God.
Yeah.
And so, it's always about ourselves. And I've realized this more and more this year. It is absolutely true. It is all about who you are and what you think and what you feel and what you do. It isn't out there, it's here. And out there is just the power, but in here is the power. So it's just always the power. We're just positioning ourselves in different places, basically. But yeah, so I would say I've evolved equally, with Tabaash. So. Speaking of which, would you like me to bring him through?
Would just be honored and just so thankful. Yes.
Yes.
All right. So yeah, have fun. And won't take long to bring him through because he's sort of hovering in the wings as I'm talking.
Thank you.
Okay, talk to you soon. Okay, bye-bye. I never hover in the wings. I'm center stage.
That's right.
I'll just have some water. Hello.
Hello.
Hi,
So nice to
Tabaash.
make your acquaintance.
What an extraordinary time to be alive.
Right.
What an extraordinary time to make good decisions about yourself. What an extraordinary time to serve each other. Because what is available? Everything. All the power is just here. And when you align with that story, that's how you access that power. No thing is ever to be found because you don't have to look for something. So each day you live your life, you're activating consciously what you are. You do not need to find what you are. You live what you are. So if you change your stories, which self-development teaches you to, then you find that which is true to you. Think of master teachers. They were always of the soul. not of the body. And because they were always of the soul, they were consistently active with the power of life. And they were able to direct that power through to their human experience because they were not of the body. Most human beings are of the body, toying with the concept of themselves as a soul. When you master, as you both have, the understanding that you are higher in your nature before you are human in your nature, then as you both have discovered, you are actually more of the soul now. And so when you are more of the soul, that's how you can direct your human nature with more power, with more life. But because you are still gods in your physical bodies, occasionally you put up a little hurdle here and there, or get a bit distracted, or create a divergence, or whatever the case. But those are just opportunities to be overcome, opportunities to put into practice the life that you have access to. And I know human nature sees it in the sense of what needs to be worked out, or the purpose of my life and the destiny of humanity and all that sort of stuff. How we see it is this life. You are living. And so you're here to live. But you are living through the physics. You're living on this planet through the laws of physics because it gives you an opportunity to take the power of life and express it in this particular way. And of course, you build up your stories. So when you build up your stories, then it creates challenges, it creates wondrous opportunities. But whatever it is, it's just a story. So here you all are in a time in human history where all your stories are changing. And when they change, then that's when, by bringing through your awareness, then you're putting the light, and that is mastery. So you're mastering the art of your human nature through your light. And that is enlightenment. To master the light through your human nature, to be in light of yourself. And when you are in light of self, you have to see everything. Nothing is hidden. And so here's this time in human nature and human history where people cannot sit in a room that's dark. But a dark room is only a room without the lights turned on anyway. And so when you finally turn that light on, you see. And what do you see first? Who you are. But not who you are in human terms, but who you are in higher terms. And it's this that's evolving and advancing, etc., etc. So if you think about the work that you're doing in your program, what you're doing is you're turning lights on. You're establishing awareness, and that awareness activates the awareness within people, which activates the codes of life, which takes them back into their mastery over their lives. And of course, so many people still believe that they have to be told how to run their lives. And they don't trust their own light, their own vibrations, their own energies. And so, you can call it the Great Awakening or whatever, but it is that time where humanity cannot sustain life without the conscious frequency of mind, body, and spirit working together. It's been proven through your history that you can't live in mind and body only. And even if you go way, way, way back, you can always see that there are belief systems that have pointed you in the direction of the light. But then, of course, what's occurred is that human nature has got in the way of that. And then you get some humans who want to take control of things. So they do their best to make sure that people don't see the light or know the light or feel the light. And people do this by conditioning and dogmas and creeds and beliefs and all that sort of stuff. And, in the early days when humans were less educated, then that's what they believed. And they were ruled through fear. But now humans are wiser and more educated. And that's where they're making a stand. And they go, hang on a minute, I have choice. And this is what all of you are involved in at this point. You're being presented with, I have choice. And it's not like the choices are being laid out to you. They're laid out within you first. And therefore, for you, you decide, well, what is the choice that matters to me? And so you start to establish deals that make sense to you, changes that you know you can, clarity, and that opens up more of life. And then that's when you become more of the soul. And if you see it in a very practical perspective, then what you're realizing is that you're dealing with an intelligence here. Because God is a supreme intelligence. And in that intelligence, it's a compact frequency that is made up of components that allows it to function in the way that it does. And the God energy doesn't have to think. It doesn't have to feel. It doesn't have to ponder and wonder. It's not necessary because it's so intact in everything. It just lives and it expresses life. You have in your soul a soul intelligence, which is in total alignment with the God intelligence. And so the higher your soul intelligence becomes, it starts sending messages to your human intelligence. And it trains your human intelligence to be receptive to the intelligence of the supreme intelligence. And then that's when you get a combining of the two vibrations. So to combine your soul intelligence and your human intelligence is what your aim is in your physical incarnations. And then when you have that alignment, then that's when you become the supreme intelligence. I am God. And then from that point, as I have taught, you are the power. And it really comes down to the simplicity, and this is truth. What shall I do with my power? And if you just simply relate it just to your life, I choose to use my power to be better in my life, or to have a better relationship, or to be the best version of myself, or to be full of health and well-being, or to assist my financial circumstances or whatever. I don't go out there and find myself or find my power. I am it, and I'm deciding today this is how I choose to use my power. And if one can be consistent with this in the simplest ways that one can, you build up the mastery of that vibration through your physics. And then it changes the way you feel, and it changes the way you think. And then metaphorically, it changes the way you're wearing that energy. So this intelligence that's been activated in every being on this planet at this point. And by the way, not just people, but the intelligence is everything is a soul. So it might be a tree, and the tree's soul intelligence is awakening more. So what there is a coming together of the vibrations, which everything originally sustained everything. So there was no degree of separation because everything was of that one intelligence. And of course, what humanity did is it shut off the intelligence and tried to take control. And they believed in human terms, they're the supreme intelligence to rule the world, to take advantage, to exploit the world and people and all that sort of stuff. Well, look where that's got you. And so of course it's not sustainable anymore. And that's why you're seeing all the dismantling that's occurring, whether it's within internally or whether it's politics or sociology or the economy or whatever it is. It's all being dismantled because the way that it's being run is not sustainable. And of course, there are those that want to keep it the way it is. So there are concerted efforts amongst certain leaders and things to keep everyone down and keep everyone done and keep everyone sick and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So that therefore they can stay in charge. But of course, the light always prevails. And that's where the more you're all in light of yourself, that's how you make a difference. You don't have to go out there and necessarily do big giant things. Leave that to the people who are here to do big giant things. But for the majority of you, just do what you can, how you can, in the way you can. Play your part as a soul intelligence and shine. And in doing that, then you change the world. And if there's enough people who are doing that, then that collectively alters consciousness. So it's that whole adage, united we stand. So now you're standing vibrationally together. And when you stand vibrationally together, then it has this ripple effect. Everything has an impact on everything. And that's why we stress a lot at the moment. Be very conscious of what you're thinking and what you're feeling and what you're doing, because that's a vibration.
Right.
And if people simply are saying like, oh, I suppose I have a really bad day today. So the energy just gets thrown out there and it collects up with all the other people who thought they're going to have a bad day. And then that just has an effect on things. And you actually see that in cities, towns, places where there's a lot of crime and conflict and things. So there's this collective bubble of energy that keeps people locked into the same story. And then in some cases, this is go on for years and generations and after generation, you see. And so, but then you also see when that can change. And so, it evolves into more light. But the light does always prevail. But the unfortunate thing is that for human nature, it seems to take so many different generations before that actually occurs.
Yeah.
And so, but I don't believe you have to wait lots of generations. I think that, here everyone has a choice. And that's where, souls like all of us here, we're showing to people, make better choices. Don't work it out, figure it out, and all that stuff. Make better choices. What makes me powerful? What am I capable of doing? How can I use my power? In the way that you can. It's all relevant to your position and circumstances. So no one's here to have a pressure put onto them to say, I have to do more than I need to. That's not necessary. I'll just do what is possible for myself.
Mm.
And so, there used to be a program on television called The Kindness Diaries. And this man, he was English, and he went all around the world on the kindness of other people. And just to see what, humanitarian energies were all about. And so he was in some place where he was talking to this man. And, and the man's, and he said to the man, oh, do you think that, I could have a place to sleep tonight? And the man said to him, well, yeah, that's fine. He says, I'm actually a homeless person, but you can come into the place where I go to sleep and you can share the food I have and all this sort of stuff.
Wow.
And what they would do is at the end of the program, they would help the people that helped them. And so at the end of the program, this guy said to this guy, well, look, we're actually making this program, da, 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 da. And this guy had always wanted to be a chef. We're going to send you to a college to learn your cooking classes. We're going to pay your apartment, and all this sort of stuff. And this was the last thing that this guy expected, you see.
Right.
And so they would always, do something for these people. And it was really, and this why there are not more programs like this well-being thing where people are looking after each other. And you live in a world where people are not trusting each other or
Right.
wondering about why people's motives are the way they are. How can people change if everyone's suspicious of people's motives and all that? But people
Right.
are on guard, so to speak.
Yeah.
And that's why what you're doing is really, really important because it's showing to people you got to change. You got to listen. You got to you got to change the way you think and the way you feel, but in the way that you can. Do what is simple. Do not expect anything of yourself and know that nothing is expected of you, but you are the power. And in your own ways, each day, live it, think it, feel it, be it. Even if it's just standing still and saying, I choose to use my God power to just be light. And so it's do what is possible for you.
Right.
It's not about trying hard. God's energy is a simple basic formula. It's not complicated. But humanity has established living in a complicated way. And now you can't do that because things have to balance out again. And this is what's actually occurring. So
Yeah.
I know I talked nonstop there for a bit. Do you want to ask me anything?
Jen, do you have a quick question?
I have so many questions.
Right.
Well, I guess what are the main purposes of your communications? I mean, what you just said is so profound to me, yet there's this, I don't want to say the wrong word, but it's like this basicness to it. Like we should all just know this.
Mm.
And we do all know this. And
Mm.
it's like you're saying something, you're just bringing it to the light. Is
Correct.
that how most of your communications are? And what is the purpose that you try to bring forth?
Yeah.
What is the
What we're doing is we're here to activate who you are. And in the words that we teach and the way we go about it, we're activating. And there's obviously other channels and spirit workers, and they're activating in their way, but it's all about activation, taking you to your origins as light beings before you developed into your human being state. And so when you are back into your light being state, then your ability to direct your human being state with the light enhances your human experiences. And this is where you return back to the paradise of earth,
so
where everyone is.
activation? So
Yeah,
activation is kind of
yeah,
remembering, a way of
yeah, yeah.
remembering.
Okay, well, totally, because it's just there. Remember, it's your soul intelligence. So we're activating that intelligence.
Mm.
And then it's up to you how you go about practicing it. And of course, the more you practice it, then the more you access to the energy and the power. And then, of course, invariably, you won't need souls like myself doing what I do because you're just able to just go direct to the source. It's just you. You're just going to yourself. And it gets that simple. I mean, think about this. A God vibration is the only thing that exists in regards to itself. And you are all that energy. So you're just all of that frequency. So there's nothing outside of God. And there's nothing that God needs to look out there or wonder or ponder about. It just gets on with doing what it does. You will all get to that point once again to just get on and just use life in the way that you use it without all of this toing and froing that humans do. And I mean, there were esoteric civilizations on this planet that were able to do that. And they were what I call the one thought consciousness. And that one thought consciousness was their alignment with the supreme intelligence. And they still had their own personalities, but all the power was through everyone. So there was no dissension, there was no conflicts, nothing of that nature. Everything was just totally in harmony. And therefore, everything and everybody supported everything and everybody. And there was no one sitting back and questioning, what's the meaning of my life? It just didn't come into there because the way they lived was it.
Mhm.
And then they just live more and more of that, you see. And you all remember that because you're all part of those types of circumstances and situations. So you're freeing yourself up from your old stories. And the old stories haven't been wrong, they've just been old stories. But they've been of a vibration that no longer serves what you have become.
Mhm.
And so you cannot fit a supreme intelligence into a limited way of thinking or feeling or being.
Right.
You're educated women and you're in your education. You can never go back to not being educated.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And
true.
and so once you know, you know.
Yeah.
And of course, once you remember, you don't want to forget. And that's why both of you have been reaching for more and more all the time because you're remembering more. And as you remember more, then it takes you to another state of consciousness of yourself. Because that's what you're doing all the time. You're just moving more towards more of you. And as you move more and more towards you, then, oh, I just got the freedom just to be. So
Mhm.
I'm very conscious that Blair has to go somewhere. So I may have to bring him back.
Sure,
But
absolutely.
let's say this is volume one. Let's do another one.
Oh, please, please,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah,
And
yeah,
thank
yeah,
you.
yeah,
Thank
yeah,
you so
yeah, yeah,
much,
yeah,
Tabaash.
yeah. Hey, look, it's fine. And next time we'll just do a little bit of Blair, a lot of me.
And
You
that's
are center stage.
Well, it's not about that, but it's about, it's what I'm here for. All right, I'll bring
Yes.
Blair back.
all right.
I bless you. I
Thank
Bye,
you
thank you
so
so
Tabaash.
much.
much.
Yeah,
Thank you. Thank
Tabaash.
you.
okay, bye for now. Oi. Hello.
Hi.
How you
Do you
doing?
want the good news or the good news?
The good news is the good news. Oh, how about some good news?
Uh, I think I asked you this once, Blair, but for our viewers out there, where do you go when
Yeah,
Tabaash comes in?
yeah. I just move on to another state of consciousness, which it's real to me, and there are different places I can go to. And so I can sort of hang out in spirit, but often I get sent on little missions where I can inspire and influence with other souls healing on the planet and to specific people and that sort of thing. And on occasions, um, I've gone out there and my wife, who passed away 5 years ago, I've met up with her a couple of times.
Fun.
And yeah, well, it's just, I mean, to me, it's just stuff, And yeah, so you sort of come back, sort of knowing. That's why I can't sort of feel grief when people pass over because I just know that they're fine, and one day you'll see them, and that sort
Mhm,
of thing. My
mhm.
dad passed away in May. He was 90, and when he was dying, I wasn't sort of sitting there feeling sad, holding his hand. I was more curious about watching him as his soul departed, and sort of seeing the signs of what he was experiencing, actually, which
Mhm.
was fascinating because about 3 minutes before he passed, this enormous smile came on his face,
Uh,
and then a little tear trickled down his eye.
oh.
And I just thought, oh, I wonder what he's seeing, who he's meeting
Mhm.
up with, all that sort of
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah, yeah. So I just find that all that fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just go into spirit and hang out and do my thing, and yeah. So then,
Well, thank Source for you. Thank Source for all of us. But you,
mm,
Blair, not only are you amazing, but you are so profound in what you do.
thank you
But
so
I,
much.
I love that Tabasha's delivery
Mm.
is very serious, very profound, but tinged with a bit of humor.
Oh yes, yeah,
And I
yeah,
think that's
yeah.
very important for all of us to
Oh
remember
yeah, yeah. No,
to,
totally.
to live
Yeah,
our lives that way.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
his
When yeah,
compassion.
yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah, he's just oozes
It
out when
just,
we do. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's just there. Yeah, people feel it. They feel energy coming out
yeah,
of people.
Right.
yeah,
When we do public events, Tabaash will be talking very, very seriously, and then he'll suddenly crack a really irreverent joke,
Mhm.
and then people would just burst out laughing.
Right.
And I one day said, "Well, why do you do that?" And he goes, "Look, human nature, they can only absorb intellectually so much." And
yeah,
it's like storing stuff up. And he says, so when you bring humor into something, then people laugh and shift, and that's when they're actually taking it on board more. And because if people are just sitting there listening all the time, they need to make a movement and they need to laugh, and because it's just a way of assimilating stuff in a greater way.
That's why in theater it's referred to comic relief.
There you go.
It
Totally.
has a
Yeah,
purpose. Yeah.
it does. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
Mhm.
anyway, I'll love you and leave you, and I look forward to talking again at some
Thank
point.
you so much.
thank you so much.
I have
Oh,
to
Oh,
tell you before you go that Blair has written two amazing books. Don't Change the Channel was his first one, and Who Catharted was his second. Please, if you have an opportunity, go to Amazon or you can get them on through your website too, right?
yeah, go through Amazon. So
Okay, go
it'll
through
just direct you
Amazon
to Amazon.
and
Yeah,
please
yeah.
do that. Also, I'll put your information down below, but I
Thank
want
you so
everybody to
much.
know, please, if you get an opportunity, do visit with Blair and especially Tabaash because it's pretty
absolutely.
amazing.
Thank
And
you.
and
Well,
so
I
that's
love
it.
you guys.
Love you too. And
Yeah.
all of you viewers out there, thanks for tuning in to Souls on Tap. We hope you enjoyed today's episode, and we'd love to ask that you share, like, and subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you'll never miss a drop of wisdom. We'd love for you to share any thoughts you have about today's conversation and add any type of healing modalities you'd like us to showcase, because remember, we are here for you. Until next time, stay curious, stay connected, and we'll see you on Souls on Tap.
And happy holidays, everyone. Be safe.